Welcome back to the Rich Bitch Era. Today I have someone in the studio on the podcast with us who is an incredible mentor to many people that listen to this podcast. She has built a global movement of tens of thousands of people, particularly women around the world, who were able to create an income online, and she has created so much freedom online, an incredible brand. She is one of the most well-known high-ticket mentors in the space with high-ticket sales, and she's recently had some huge changes and momentum in her business. She's really scaled her business from day one and from zero to an incredible business, and something that I'm very admirable of is that she's also a mum of 3 and a wife as well. So thank you so much, Kristie X Ord, for being here.
Thanks for having me, babe. It's great to be here.
So first question, many people know your sort of startup day one story, how you created so much momentum from, having to put eggs and rice on 2 separate cards to now being, very financially free. But what I'm very curious about is the back story of what actually got you into business in the first place. Because most people finish school, they go into a career or they choose a path and a specific industry they want to be in. What was that for you?
So when I was a child, I saw my dad have his own business, and it's like monkey see, monkey do. And I always loved the threads of like the generational lines. Even being at a retreat last week, there was one person in the room that was a millionaire, and she watched her father with financial management, put different, money into different accounts and all of this kind of stuff. And she really attests that that's why she created the financial success that she did, because she had financial management. And if I look at my background, it was like I saw my dad create his own business from scratch. So I think it was kind of etched into me, but I didn't really know that I wanted to create a business until I got to a point of going to school, getting the good grades, going to university, getting the good grades, and thinking that success was being in a corporate role, climbing the corporate ladder, because that's all we're kind of told. And so I did that. I followed that because that was what I was told. And then as soon as I got a corporate job, I was earning $65,000 a year, and I was like, woohoo, I've made it. And just realized so quickly, like, that's totally not the life that I desired. And I was like, wow, I've spent 5 years going to university to feel actually so miserable. And I think because business was etched into me, I was like, okay, what else am I going to do? And it was funny because I actually studied business at university. That was what I studied. But, even in university, they teach you how to work in someone else's business, marketing, HR, these types of things. So even though you're taught like business principles, you're not actually really taught how to be an entrepreneur. But they gave me some great skill sets, right? Like especially around marketing and all these types of things. So yeah, I think it was like 7 months in and to that like corporate job. And I was like, okay, I need to do something different. And I started to ask myself some questions like, what does my dream life actually look like? And I came across a book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and it was from Tim Ferriss, and he spoke about get clear on your dream life first and foremost, and then find a business model that can support you to live that dream life. I was like, what? Like, here I am trying to live this dream life in the pockets of my time, like on a weekend or on a Friday night or whatever, trying to like fit in some fun. And then I'm miserable Monday to Friday. This doesn't make any sense. So I think between like having it etched into me from like a young child, and then having this kind of like realization when I was in a corporate role being so miserable that actually working for someone else was not the dream for me. And I needed to actually figure out how to do business and become an entrepreneur. So I left my corporate job. I had no savings. I had no backup plan. I did not know what I was going to do, but I left and was like, I'm becoming an entrepreneur. And then, failed a lot to then when I created the success. But there was 5 years of failure.
What did those 5 years teach you? What was the main, if you really could boil it down to one thing, what did that teach you?
Resilience. And, it's not failure. Like it's just like every time we kind of fall down, it's just another learning, like it's another chance to learn, right? So yeah, it just taught me a lot about resilience and staying committed to a deeper why and a deeper vision and getting back up with every knock and just realizing like, oh, cool, this is just another piece of growth on my journey and I get to learn a lot from this experience.
And that is the behind the scenes that not many people see, is actually like the resilience that you built before your success in this business. And because I think a lot of people think there's the overnight success, but there's the years and years and years prior to that built you into the person you needed to be to actually have that success. So
100%.
Let's talk about that, because success in business is as much as the actual success that you see as it is the behind the scenes of the capacity that you need to grow and that you need to hold. Mm-hmm. So what has happened scaling your business from, the 5-figure months to the multiple 5 figures to the 6-figure months? How did you have to grow your capacity to not only hold money and, increase your, wisdom around how to actually work with money, but also the capacity to receive and manage that much money and that much success?
Well, I didn't know how to manage that. And so I had to, first of all, it was about changing my identity, because our identity is so deeply ingrained into us that we identify as a certain person, right? We identify with maybe, I'm the lazy person or the procrastinator, or, we have these identities or labels that we kind of say these things of who we are. And so I had to shift out of being this broke identity, this person that was always late on a rent, the person that was always kind of behind and, just struggling and being this identity of almost like a failing entrepreneur of am I ever going to make it? Blah, 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 blah. That was all kind of then my identity. So I had to shift who I was showing up as. And one of the things that I did was tap into how would the 7-figure version of me show up now? Even though I had $0 in my account, I started to have to make decisions that aligned with a different version of me, and not a version that wasn't true to who I was. It's just tapping into a version that's already within you that you don't even know is there yet. So I had to dig deep and be okay, how would that version of myself make decisions? How would that version show up? I think we often say but I don't have the confidence yet. And it's you're going to have the confidence if you actually identify as a person that has confidence. So I literally had to just start showing up as the confident version, even though if I had that little voice inside that was you're not good enough yet to do this. Who are you to lead? Who are you to share these kind of things? And bit by bit, from changing my identity, actually not bit by bit, it happened really fast because I changed my identity. And I started to show up as this person that did believe in herself, that did have confidence, that, did go for her dreams and would express in a different way and, not be afraid to kind of share or what people were going to think. I just started to have to act differently, behave differently, think differently. I was how is that 7-figure version of myself going to think? How am I going to invest into myself? And by doing this, things started to change in my life very, very quickly. And I started to, just be the person that could hold more of a capacity and, be able to feel worthy of myself. But there was a lot of untangling and a lot of work that had to be done. And so, through that process, I wasn't that great at managing money. And, I started to make a lot of money. And I was what do I do now? How do I hold money? How do I circulate money? How, am I even worthy to receive this amount of money? All of that had its own process as well to move through. So, yeah, I think part of it is you can't wait until you are the confident version to be confident. You only are going to become confident or have belief in yourself if you just make a decision and then show up as that version of yourself, because that version actually is already within you. You just got to be able to unleash that.
And so when you started to make, let's just call it serious money, right? Not just replacing an income.
#serious money.
#serious money. Big deal women,
right?
Yes.
Big deal money.
Big deal money, serious money. Not just replacing your income and getting by and woohoo, freedom life because they don't have to go to a job.
Yeah.
Actual serious money that you need to learn to manage.
Yes.
What emotions came up when you started to earn this serious money?
Well, a lot around worthiness, a lot around am I worthy to continue to receive this? Is it just going to be a 1-month thing or a 2-month thing? And then it became a 3-month thing and then it became a year thing. And I was is this going to keep going or am I going to lose it all? Because I also saw my dad lose it all, right? And so again, there was this part of me that I think learned how to do business almost through the lens of seeing him do it, but then also he lost that. And so that was a really big fear of like, am I going to be able to sustain it? Am I going to be able to hold this? Am I going to do the right thing with money? Am I going to be able to know how to manage it? And yeah, all of that took its own journey to figure out and to learn about as well, whilst also making a lot of mistakes with money, or not mistakes, but things I probably would have done a little bit different. You know, if I had have known about financial literacy and money management and these types of things that, again, I don't feel are taught to us. Like, never once in school do I remember being taught like how to invest money, what to save, what to give. Like, we're not really taught that kind of stuff. So then when I started making all this money, I was like, oh my God, I don't have the skill set to understand what to actually do with this. But there was definitely things to work through around like, can I hold it? Am I worthy of receiving this? Am I going to be able to manage it? Am I going to lose it at any time? And it was kind of, I always felt like a little bit on edge that at any time I was going to lose that.
So what do you feel you wish you knew sooner about money, about management, about the mistakes that you may have made with money in the past?
Okay, so this is what I tell people now, and obviously everyone gets to make their own decisions around how they manage money. But for me, I think because I lived quite not like super broke life, but, you know, like my parents always got by. There was always food on the table, but there was not really anything more. So I never got to have all the, you know, the extras and the luxuries and all of that. And I would look at people and, you know, they were flying business class and living this really epic life. And so I really raised my lifestyle very quickly. And I think that's one thing now that I teach people is like, don't just go and raise your lifestyle super quick. Like if you start making, you know, you're used to making 3K and now you start making 10 or 20K, don't just go and blow that. Don't just go and blow it on designer clothes or designer bags or this or that. All of that can come. You know, actually invest, learn to invest into whatever it is that you're aligned to, whether it's property, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, whatever it is, but learn how to invest, learn how to save, and learn how to give, and learn the circulation of money. Learn how to invest into yourself and invest back into your business. And whilst I did do that and I built assets and all of that along the way, I also blew like millions of dollars, to be honest, in the first few years. But also, I don't actually regret that because I lived a freaking awesome life. So there's part of me that's like that responsible version of me that's like, hey, don't go increase your life because actually it's really amazing to be smart with money and know financial literacy and money management. But also like, yeah, you get to live a little bit, right? If that's what actually feels aligned to you. And that's just what was aligned to me. So I was just like enjoying money to a really big extent. And I still do, but I just make some different decisions around it now.
I love that because it's like you mentioned before with identity and like changing your identity to not be the broke person or not be the person that just gets by. It probably actually was really key to you changing your identity. Like I agree with you. Like it's not lost. It actually was probably a really big investment to your identity shift that had to happen to really get there because that is such a big part of this is the identity shift. And you've mentioned before about worthiness, like feeling worthy of receiving and holding the money because I too have, you know, have seen that. And I actually had someone in my team call me up the other day and say, I did 60K in 2 months and it just fell between my fingers. And she's like, I had 60K come in and 60K go out. What do I do? And I was like, that's a rite of passage of anyone that starts to earn 100%. Big money is like how to not just receive it, but how to hold it and how to manage it and what to actually do with it when you have it. So what have you learned? Like what are some of the investments you've made? Like where have you actually given that money a home that isn't consuming but actually investing?
So how I like to look at things, I really like DeMartini's principles. I learned them many, many years ago and I never followed them because I never really had any money. But when I started making money and I started to delve back into DeMartini's work, you know, really around 10% savings, 10% giving. Like, so now every year it ends up being about like, you know, 100 grand that I'll end up giving. And it's not even sometimes intentional. It's just like, I find that it ends up happening. If I haven't given for a while, something will happen where someone's really in need or struggling around me or whatever, and then I'll just be like, oh, like this gets to be in my next space to actually give. And that feels really good. And assets. So I've got 4 different, properties. So invested into that. I've also invested into, we actually bought a piece of land, and it wasn't very nice when we bought it. It was terrible. It was like the worst, and it needed so much work. So I've invested, over $600,000 cash to build it into a retreat center, I guess, retreat property. And, now that actually makes money itself. Like, we're able to cover our mortgage every year just by having people rent it out for retreats. So I like to look at building assets and houses as like, how can I actually invest into this, but get it paying for itself. So at the moment, for example, I'm doing a beach renovation house, and I'm making it very cool. Like, it's going to have like all these like funky kind of like arch walls and, all these different fun tiles and colors and pops here and pops there. And then I will basically work out, okay, well, what are we paying for our mortgage every month, and how do I replace that a few days a week by having it rented out, either for the podcast studio that I'm building there or photo shoots or something like that. So just being strategic in those ways, even like the house that I've got now, I also set that up as like an Airbnb, which I could turn into an Airbnb, but I'm living in it at the moment. And it is also set up to be like a photo shoot house. So if I also wanted to make money on that house as well whilst I'm still living in it, then I could rent it out a few days a week and cover that with photo shoots. So just things like thinking like that of like, how do I create assets that also pay for themselves that I'm not then out of pocket? So yeah, I've got a multi-million-dollar property portfolio now. So a lot of it's been assets, and now most recently it's been like, really looking into and investing into cryptos, and I'm very new still to all of that, and stocks, and getting my head around that whole world as well. But yeah, just like really the principles of like managing money, of like, I always feel whenever I focus on 10% in savings, I always just make way more money because I'm respecting the energy, and like money loves to have a home. So if I'm respecting 10% savings, 10% giving, then I find that the circulation of money just seems to work really well.
So you mentioned before DeMartini, and I can hear you referencing different things around money and money loves a home and all of these things. Can you share some of the people or books, podcasts that you've learnt the most from when it comes to your relationship with money and how to deal with and invest money?
DeMartini, definitely. I love all of his principles. I love Jen Sincero's book on what is it? The Badass at Making Money. Yeah, that one. Rich Girl or Rich Queen from Amanda Francis was also one of my favorites. Or
Rich as Fuck.
Rich as Fuck. Yeah, I'm like,
that.
Rich Queen, that's not what it is.
Her so
that
much.
one's awesome. Yep. Think and Grow Rich, these types of ones. There's so many that I kind of, read back in the day. But yeah, I'd probably say they're the main ones.
Amazing.
And also, actually, most recently is Lloyd Ross's books. I love his books. They're amazing. Very simple to understand around just money management.
Yeah.
And, he's got a whole different thought around like not having property. And it's really cool to like learn from different people around, well, what are they investing into? For him, it's very much around stocks and shares. And I'm like, cool, like that's awesome. So I like to learn from, different people that have that wisdom in all those different areas.
So do I. I just had him on the podcast a few episodes ago, and it was really interesting because I just sold our house and we were buying a new one and we're doing another renovation we've like got the bug now with flipping houses. And he's like, and I actually met him in the green room backstage at Dreamfest last year, and we were talking about investment. He was like, don't have a property, like just rent. And we were in the middle of like, we just built a house. So it is interesting because I also really respect him and he has a great opinion on that as well. And also there's many ways to build wealth. Like there's so many different investment strategies, and obviously you've got to pick what feels good for you as well and what lights you up. So is there anything that you would say to someone that is already having success online, but they're not day one, they're maybe day 1,000, they're 3 years in or so, and they really want to scale their business to the next level and really like where I know where you've been, where it's like you're having success, but you're really ready for that next era, your rich bitch era.
Yes, the rich bitch era. Yeah.
What would your advice be on what they really need to actually look at in their business? Like from a strategic, logical, like if you were going to sit down and do a strategy session with them, what would you actually look at in their business to scale?
I mean, at the end of the day, I just think like business is built off sales. Sales is the lifeblood of a business. And if that's the case, then what do we do to increase sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then we look at, okay, well, what's the strategy that gets to happen behind that? Who's the person you need to become to receive that next level? Do you feel like you've got the capacity to hold that and capacity to grow and capacity to scale? I think that's a big one. And then there's obviously the strategy. And I always just, I geek out on data. Like everything in business really comes down to data. So I just look at data. I go, what is the data showing us? Like what's working? What's not working? Where are we at compared to last month? Okay, like what are the strategies we need to put in place? So if that's how we look at it, with sales being that lifeblood and sales driving our business, I mean, yes, there's more to it. Obviously, you've got serviceability and how do you increase your retention and, making sure that your customers and clients are happy. Like there's so many different parts to it. But ultimately, as business owners, how do we bring more sales through the door to increase our revenue, to get to scale our business? And so for me, I just like to look at, well, what is the data and what is the goal, right? Like if we want to get to this amount, okay, well, how many people do we need to speak to? How many eyeballs on the offer? How many leads do we need to have? How many conversations do we need to have in order to reach that goal? And what support are we going to need to do that? Like I feel that having the right team around you, depending on what business you have, obviously there's all different businesses. Some don't really need a huge team, some do, but having the right team and skill sets around you is also really important, because as a business owner, we are not going to have all the skill sets as much as we need to learn the skill sets of marketing and sales and leadership and communication and all these things. Ultimately, we're going to have our kind of key zone of geniuses that we're going to stick to, and then we're most likely going to need the support from other people. So anytime I'm in a phase of like scaling, I'm also looking at, well, first of all, okay, do I believe that I can go to that next level with the money and capacity and holding that and all of that piece? Okay, let's start there. Then what is the strategy? What data do we need to look at? What KPIs need to be in place? What strategy is actually going to get us there? And then looking at what's the right team that's actually going to support us to get there. Do we need somebody new on our team that has a skill set that I don't particularly have? Okay, where are we going to find that person? And oftentimes, when we've got the right support, and if they know more than we do, well, that's great, because then they can get us there. We can hold the vision and the team can help us to actually drive and execute those results.
Such a great point. Our mutual mentor, Balaj, actually once said, and I'll never forget this because I think about this so often in my business. He once just said, what would break if you actually got the results you want?
Exactly.
Yeah. And many years ago, like I thought about that, and there was a few systems in my business that just simply wouldn't be able to hold the capacity of what I actually wanted to create and the amount of sales and money that I wanted to be bringing in. And so I fixed that and built that first before I, and then inevitably the results come, right?
Exactly.
Because then you feel solid in the fact that you can, as you said, like you have the capacity to hold that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
do
important.
you have the systems in place to be able to scale? Yes or no? And if you don't, then you've got to kind of build those out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll flop, most likely, because then you might be bringing the sales in, but then can you hold a good service and, be able to support those people coming through?
Yeah. I think also what's different from you and the way that you do business to what I have seen in many other leaders in network marketing or in even, digital sales, like affiliate marketing, the online business world, is you haven't I don't know, maybe you have in different points of your life. We all hustle to get our businesses off the ground. But what I see is you haven't sacrificed your nervous system and who you are and your family and all of that in order to get there. You've actually been really conscious, and I know this is a big message that you preach, to build in a way that still really honours yourself and nourishes yourself and looks after yourself. And as a mum of three, we're both mums of three, with young kids, like not kids that are really independent, like they really need us still at these ages. Yeah. How have you managed to do that? Like, what are your tips around really still honouring building in a way that feels really good for you, that doesn't burn you out, that doesn't harm your nervous system to a point that you're like a nervous wreck? Like, how have you done that?
So Most recently in the last few years, I've really focused on this more so than I probably did before. And I feel like I've got a natural big capacity and big energy to be able to do multiple things at once and be able to be a mom and run businesses and do all of these things. It feels like it's quite a natural energy. But in saying that, a couple of years ago, I did burn out and I was really stressed and we had a big business fuck up. Sorry for the language, but
it's all welcome.
Okay,
here.
great. It's welcome
It's
here.
called Rich Bish.
We can fuck it up. Great, amazing. We had a big business fuck up, and it created not it created, but I allowed it to create a lot of stress. I was going through a really stressful personal time and all sorts of things. And so I actually did have this momentary breakdown in business where I actually couldn't do business for a few months. And I'd never been like that. Like for me, it was always, aside from having a nervous breakdown and adrenal fatigue back 10 years ago, which really created me to operate in a different way, that I'd never felt like that before. And it was like, okay, I'm going to have to I couldn't handle the level of stress that I was under, right? And I think as business owners, there is going to be times we're going to feel tested, or we're maybe going to make some mistakes, or we are going to feel an element of stress. Do we have the nervous system to be able to move through that, right? Because that can also kind of stop us if we don't. And so I had to kind of re-regulate everything to come back to my vitality and my capacity and my energy. And I actually took 2 months out of business, completely out. I was pretty much in bed for a couple of months, and I was going consistently to chiropractic, acupuncture, all different modalities. I was in spas and ice baths and saunas every day. I just literally focused all in on nourishment and re-regulating my nervous system. And then I came out the other end of that, and my health has gotten better and better and better because I have really put that first. The last couple of years I've done things called like Zen Cleanse, I've done 2 of those back to back. I've done Cell Core, which has just been absolutely incredible. So I think also there's nervous system regulation type things, like I do a lot of biohacking and all of that. But then there's actually our vitality, which I believe if we're, not cleansing, we're not fasting, we're not detoxing, these types of things kind of regularly, then we've got a lot of stuff going on in our digestive system, which also slows things down and can also create inflammation and create stress in the body. So I believe as business owners, it's our responsibility to have the utmost highest of vitality and energy so that we can actually serve and impact and give to people without us being sacrificed, So it's definitely been a massive focus. And, just even things like, my best friend, she teaches Koya and, all of these types of practices to really get more into our body and, just be able to kind of slow down and breathe and stop thinking a million times about this next vision or idea and just come back more into the body.
That's awesome. And okay, I have to ask, has there been a moment that has really brought you to your knees and made you want to quit? Aside from the one you've just mentioned, because it sounds
that
like
one was
you bounced back.
Oh, yeah.
But, was that it? Like, what are the moments that have like really brought you to your knees to the point of you going really questioning yourself?
That was probably the biggest, because I literally I actually felt like I was dying. I remember calling my holistic health practitioner at the time, and I was like, I don't know how to explain this, but I literally feel like I'm dying. I was like, I don't know if I sound like a crazy person or what. She's like, your nervous system's overloaded and you're just carrying so much stress, and we've got to get to the root of that. But there have been other times where personal relationships have broken down, and, business really is about people. We're dealing with people every single day. And especially in businesses like our business, we're building people, right? Yes, we're building a business and we're building a personal brand and we're building a movement and all these elements, but we're really building people. And that can be very challenging, because one minute you might be really good friends with someone and the next there might be a total breakdown in the communication or friendship, and that can be really rattling, right? So for me, I had a huge breakup with a best friend of mine, and that I was going through deep layers of grief. Like I've never had someone really close to me pass away, but the layers, so I haven't had that feeling of grief when someone so close actually passes, but I feel like I know what it's like now, because it was like literally like someone so close to me had passed. But the weird thing was they hadn't passed. We just were no longer friends. And that was so rattling to me. Like, I just went through so much grief. And I guess it never got to the point where I was like, I'm going to quit my business over this, because my business and my vision and my why is so strong. But it's times like that that are really testing, you know, on a personal relationship level. I guess from like a business level with that question, you know, that thing that I shared around the stress and, you know, a big business fuck up, like it ended up being a very long fuck up, like 8 months, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, it wasn't some light small thing, right, that we could fix in a week. So that, I think, was probably the time where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know if I've got the energy and the capacity to actually move through this. And it really rocked me. But obviously I got out the other side and, you know, worked on my vitality and my energy and took it as another learning lesson in the large pile of learning set lessons and, you know, got on with things.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm listening to Let Them by Mel Robbins as the whole fucking world is listening to that book right now. It's like going viral. But honestly, I have nothing but good things to say about it. But I kind of got, like, I was listening to it quite slowly, and then I was talking to a good friend of mine who's also a leader in this business about a recent friendship breakdown too. And she was like, have you read Let Them? And I'm like, oh, I'm reading it slowly at the moment. She's like, keep going, because half that book is actually about friendships and about how you know, friendships, especially as adults, are very different to what we know as children. And like, no one teaches this. No one teaches how hard adult friendships are and how friendships often as adults are for a season, you know, and they don't necessarily last forever. And I'm the person that's like, no, they last forever. You do anything to hold on to it. Like, you know, friendships are not disposable. Like, you do anything that you can to like hold on to them. And actually, I'm like realizing, no, like sometimes you just got to let it go and it's not meant to be. And you know, she spoke about proximity. You know, where you live is really like, if you see someone all the time, according to Mel Robbins, it takes 200 hours to create a real like best friend type friendship with someone face to face hours, right? So who you see on the regular is really important. And then also season of life. So if you're building a business together, or you've got kids similar ages, or you're getting married at the same time, or whatever, like your season of life is similar. That's really big. And then energy, like the energetics is the third thing. Like, you know, when you just click with someone, you just like, you just talk for hours and hours and no time passes, which is you and I in the coffee shop. We were late here because I thought it was like 5 minutes of us talking. Like, the energetics is huge with someone. And it's been so healing for me to read that book, or I'm listening to the audio, because adult friendships are just so difficult and different to what we know. I don't want to say difficult. It's not that they're difficult. It's that we're never taught this. We're never taught how to have adult friendships. And I resonate so much with what you've shared, because I think everyone goes through that or has gone through that with friendships, and particularly in network marketing, in direct sales, in anything online where you're mentoring other women. A lot of sisterhood stuff can come up. A lot of friendship stuff comes up where, you know, recently I've been in some situations where I felt like I thought we had a friendship, but actually it's really one way, and they actually kind of see me more as a mentor. And it's a weird situation to be in, to be like, oh, I thought we genuinely were friends. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, the thing at the end of the day, I am their mentor and that's fine. Like, but I think it's easy to kind of have these wobbles and these situations that do bring you to your knees sometimes and not really know how to navigate it. So, and as you've said, and my husband says this, he's in a, you know, a senior role in the corporate world, and he says all the time, like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what your business is, what your company is, the higher you get up in leadership, the more it's a human game and a people's game. And like really learning to have people skills and work with and lead people rather than the service or the products that you actually sell. And he's absolutely right. And I think my next question was actually going to be on this, around like, your style of leadership is so heart-led, and you're so good at leading people really authentically and listening, holding space for people, but also empowering them to lead in their own way, despite having had these situations that I'm sure many people can resonate with. How have you built a culture of tens of thousands of people where there's no gatekeeping and people see each other as teammates rather than competition? How, what's been sort of the journey towards that?
So I believe when we're creating a business, we're not just creating a business, we're creating a movement, and the movement has its own life force that would live on with or without you, and that's where the legacy piece comes into it. So when I started creating this, I guess, online movement and this global movement, I looked at the pillars that I wanted to have as part of that and the culture that I wanted to create. And the culture really came down to one pillar was around celebration. So like deeply seeing people, because I guess that's not what we do. Like, especially in Australia, like we don't really have a culture here of like full celebration. Like there's a lot of tall poppy syndrome here. You know, if people are successful, it's kind of like, that person's successful. And it's just, I don't know, it's a bit weird here. It's not like in the US. And so I really wanted to create that so people really could be part of something where they truly felt seen and celebrated. And then another piece to it was around self-responsible leadership. So I really wanted to teach people around self-responsible leadership and how do you actually be responsible for yourself and your actions and your results that you get rather than placing that or blaming that on somebody else. And so that was a really key pillar. And then the third pillar was all around collaborative leadership, where I'd seen a lot of structures and business movements, etc., prior and kind of studied them, I guess. And there wasn't that collaborative leadership. It was very much more so like, oh, if I've got my thing that's working, I can't share that with somebody else, or I can only share a little bit in case they then go do that and become more successful. And I really looked at what would be the most abundant leadership where we use the law of reciprocity, that like what we actually give, we're naturally going to receive. And from doing that, I created a culture, and then we all created a culture of this collaborative leadership where if something was working for someone, like maybe like a key strategy or something like that, everyone felt really abundant to share that without kind of gatekeeping or keeping something back. And then that created this culture where everybody really truly just wants everybody to win. And it's not this like, oh, like, you know, they're winning, but I'm not winning. Like it's just more like, hey, I'm so willing to, if I found this thing, I'm so willing to give it to you. I'm so willing to share because I want to see you genuinely win as well. I want to see us all win. And yeah, I feel like that's been a really big part of creating a very positive culture and a really success-minded culture where everybody does just get to win and thrive.
You have, for those that don't know what Kristie has created as well, like she runs a platform. It is forever changing in the online landscape, in social media, in business, in lead generation, in strategies that work. Like it is just forever changing. Not many people are up for the job of actually being the person that runs the education platform behind that, right? Like it's never a done job. You're actually never finished because the landscape is always evolving, right? And if you think you're finished, then you've got the wrong mindset because, you know, nothing in the online space is ever forever. I just thought of this question because I was thinking about the capacity you truly hold. And you know, obviously I have a platform too, but it's nowhere near the size or the, you know, the capacity to which you hold. What is the mindset that you have to go like, oh yeah, we're just going to keep creating. Oh yeah, we're just going to keep, you know, giving more and teaching new strategies? Because most people would be like, this is so much, like it's too much for me. What goes on in your mind to be able to continue doing that and continually give and serve to the level that you do to your community?
These are juicy questions. I love it. Okay, so I believe, right, when we first start in business, we're creating a way to get away from pain. Most entrepreneurs are moving away from pain. Let's face it, they're either broke or they, you know, something's going on where they're like, I need to get out of this situation, and they don't want to go and get a job, and they're not that type of person. So they're like, well, I'm going to create it. I'm going to get myself out of this place. then the next step is getting yourself out of that place. It's like, okay, cool. Like for me, it was like I was broke. I couldn't put food on the table. Was always late on my rent, blah, blah, blah. Then I got to a place of, okay, cool. Like I can put food on the table. I can fly business class. I can do what I want now. I've got money, like epic. Now what's next? And I think that's the point where sometimes people get a little bit comfortable because they've kind of got to this place that they wanted to get to. And then it's like, but what is actually next? Like, what's the next piece? And for me, I'm very driven by purpose and people. Like it's the two P's really. It's like purpose and people. Okay. Like I feel on purpose with what I'm doing. So there's no part of me that just wants to like retire and go sit on a beach and do nothing. Like, yeah, I have those times. I love that. But I also am very driven by purpose. And then, yeah, people, right? Like we get to a certain point, but I never got into business or even this particular business to be like, 5 years and I'm done. Like, I think people do that. They go, I don't want to have to keep doing stuff for the rest of my life. And I'm like, what? Like, are we giving ourselves like a time frame? Like, 5 years and then I'm out or I'm done kind of thing. Like, I never gave that time frame. Like, I gave myself a good 10 years of all in, but I'll probably won't be 10 years. It'll probably be much more than that because I'm driven by people and purpose. And if that's still at the forefront of what I'm driven by, then I'll most likely keep doing what I'm doing. And so I think when it's like you're fueled by purpose and you're fueled by a big vision and a big why, and you're also fueled to really support and serve people, we can't really be in business and like sales, in my personal opinion, without truly wanting to impact other people. Like, I just believe sales is literally service. Sales is literally impact, and we're just solving people's problems. So how can we do that if we don't truly in our heart want to actually impact people? So now it's about like, yes, I keep refining and showing up for our platform and showing up for people because I want people to win. Like, I don't want to just be like, oh, cool, guys, like I've now made it, like good luck. It's like, no, I want to take people on that journey of this like 8-year journey I've been on and help them create the life that they desire in even a shorter amount of time than I did, by sharing the learning lessons and refining things and making things so epic for people that it takes a lot of them having to do that, of all the mistakes and lessons and all the things.
That's so beautiful. It really is. And I resonate with that so much. I had almost 2 months off earlier this year, and a part of me was really fucking bored.
Yeah.
Like, and I got into my like sourdough making, cooking era, and I was, like, which I love. I love having time for that and whatever, like, more time with the kids and stuff. But I think if you are truly a visionary and a creative, there is a part of you that's missing if you're not creating and serving. And that's what appealed to us in the first place about this business. So it's like, yes, you can get to the point where you're financially free, but it doesn't mean your team are. And that's actually what drives me as well, is like helping women to really get there as well. And that's why I also made the move. It's like there's so much more impact to be made here and so many particularly women to serve in this space. So that leads me to my final question. What is your message to women around money? What do you wish more women understood?
That actually you get to make a fuckload of it now that we can, we're okay with the fuck bombs. You get to make a fuckload of it, and it doesn't have to be that hard. It actually gets to be really simple. Like if you just actually truly want to impact people, you put people first. Like if you show up in business and you're like, oh, I need to make sales to pay my rent, and then somebody doesn't get started and you take it personally, you're not doing this for the right reasons. Like, yes, of course, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your why and your vision and to live a different type of life. But you actually have to really want to show up every day. Like, what value and impact can you give to other people? Because you will naturally be looked after. If you've got the right offer that's paying you well, all of that, and you start putting that in front of people, you're going to get paid well. So I think it's just really like, I believe that it actually gets to be really simple and that you get to make a lot of money and you get to do it in a way that feels really good, and you get to put your nourishment first, and you still get to be a mother. It's funny you just said about like the sourdough era. Like there's part of me that like wishes I was like a sourdough era gal and mum, but I'm just not, to be honest. And that's okay if you are. That's awesome. I love that. But like, I love the fact that, you know, I get to be really present with my children, and we've done 8 holidays with our kids this year already. We are about to go world schooling with them all around the world, like in the next kind of 6 months we're leaving, and to give them like these beautiful memories and experiences. But I also get to be a powerhouse in business, and I also get to really honor my purpose, and I get to take time out of my family unit. Like, my husband and I will literally give each other space, like a couple of weeks every year, to go do the things that we want to do. He just got back from a 12-day European trip. I'm about to go to Dubai. Last month I was in San Diego. And it's not about like I'm always traveling, always leaving my family, but we kind of have these few weeks every year that we both take to honor like being in our own energy as well. So I believe that mums do actually get to have it all. I do believe that we get to live on purpose, that we do get to be really, you know, present with our children in whatever way that looks like. You know, for me, we've got 2 of our kids that go to this little homeschool 3 days a week. And then our son is actually, we have him at home with us, you know, and that's what we desire. You know, I get to go on epic retreats. I also run retreats. Like, I get to do it all. And I think sometimes in motherhood, we feel like maybe we've got to sacrifice certain things or whatever. And I truly believe we do get to be present with the family whilst also making epic money and making an epic impact and feeling really on purpose and feeling really lit up. And yeah, like, that's the message, is like, we do actually get to have it all. The health, the wealth, the purpose, all the things.
And to your point before about your father and what you witnessed, like your father building a business, how great that you're involving your kids and they get to witness that. Like, that they are the life lessons that they get to actually see in real time.
Yeah.
And even just through osmosis, like just, you know, seeing how you and Clint run your business and how you are, like, and that you do both give each other time and you do run retreats and they're around, you know, like, it's so beautiful. I genuinely hope that someone is listening to this who is thinking about kids or who is a mum and actually gets that permission slip to go, it is actually your superpower. It's not despite being a mum. It's not, you know, even though I'm a mum, it's because you're a mum. Because you're a mum, you get to show up and not hide what you're doing from your kids, involve them in it and be the role model for them.
Yeah, I love that you just said that, and I'll just add one final thing about this. So our son, like, he sees me doing sales calls and, you know, he witnesses like my life, right? And he's obsessed with making money. Like, he loves sales. He actually said to me the other day, he comes into my room and he says to me, "Mum, I'm going to sell like this Ninjago set and these clothes and these Lego sets," and, you know, all these things he's telling me he's selling. And I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "But I'm going to put it on Marketplace and I'm going to say on the ad that it's only available today to buy." Yeah. And he's like, so "But it's actually going to be available tomorrow if it's not sold, but I'm not going to tell them that." And I was like, how do you know that? Like, how do you, like, what? Like, this is sales psychology. I was like, "You're 7." And anyway, I was like, he knows, like, I already knew he knew sales, because I think kids are actually genuinely like great at sales and negotiating, right? But I was like, he's getting like the actual psychology of sales here. And I was like, dude, this is really epic. And so he's really driven by money and he's really driven, like, he wants to sell. So I'm like kind of harnessing that gift with him. I'm like teaching him about like, okay, if you're going to go busk or you're going to go like sell your Ninjagos out in the street, we can't do it on our street because it's a quiet street. We need more foot traffic. We need more eyeballs on the offer. And he's like, "What does eyeballs on the offer mean, Mum?" I'm like, "Babe, we got to get in front of lots more people so they can see your offer, so some will be interested and then some will buy." And so he's getting this. And then he went out to the street and the main street and sold, and he came back and he's like, "I made $40. I'm like, yes. So I think like our kids, like, if we can actually like, you know, show them like, how do you sell? How do you, you know, utilize AI, because that's where things are going. And then how do you teach your kids financial literacy and management? I mean, they're going to be basically set up for life.
100%. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes. That's another one of my faves. Okay. Let's add that to the list. That was one of my all-time favorites.
Yes. 100%. I like, it's such an important message, because I do feel a lot of the messages I see from on Instagram and online are, you know, almost hustling to hide the business, like hide, have your separate times and stuff that you do the business from the kids. And, Zara, my daughter, was home this morning because I just completely stuffed up and thought that she was in daycare and she's not. So she was home with Vic and I both, and she's 2 and she's witnessing us. Like, I've been talking more about my podcast with my kids, and we've been listening to podcasts, and then my son has been asking me like, what podcast did you bring out this week? Like, involving them in it, because it isn't something that I want to hide from them. And
Totally.
I've been explaining more to my 8-year-old, because the other 2 are a little bit young. They don't quite get it yet. But I've been explaining to him that, I am at every pickup, every drop-off, every assembly, every soccer game, I'm the Uber driver from 2:30 every day.
Yes.
I've basically the Uber driver for my kids. And I'm like, that, because I have my own business, that's why I'm able to be there for you. Because we talk a lot about business and the fact that, and he always says, are you the first boss or the second boss to my husband? Because he knows I'm the first boss. And I'm like, Papa's actually the third boss. Because he doesn't have his own business, and I'm the first boss. And them even seeing that dynamic with nothing wrong with the woman being, I was the breadwinner for 9 months in our family. Like, the first boss is mama, and actually Papa isn't the first boss in his, these little things they do pick up on. And it's like really, it's so beautiful with your kids and even Clinton, how he's, homeschooling Venny as well. Like all of these things, like there's the access to someone already doing it. Like that is the message I want to also share, is like, don't hide it from your kids. Like involve them in it. Don't hide it from them. Even if you're going for a big goal, like actually integrate that into conversation. Like, what should we do when mummy gets this big goal? Like, how should we celebrate? What should I said that to my kids when I was running for Legacy earlier this year, and I was like, what should our big reward be? Like, expecting them to be like, let's go to Japan, let's go to Hawaii. My son wanted to go bowling and my other son wanted to go to a sushi train. I was like, you kids are so
That's
easy
simple.
to please.
That's
done
great.
and done. We can do it.
That's a cheap celebration. That's
Such a
great.
cheap
It's like, I don't have
celebration.
to book a trip to Japan.
I was like, I'll go somewhere myself then.
Exactly. I love it.
But like just integrating them into the conversation and like bringing them along the journey. I think you and Clint have done that really beautifully as well. And it's such a important thing so that they do learn and they do feel part of it as well.
Totally. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on. And there was just so many nuggets of gold. We would love to hear from you. If you absolutely loved this episode, please share it in your stories. Tag Kristie and myself. We would love to hear from you. If there were any one-liners from Kristie, message her. And if there's any topics or situations that you're in that you would like advice on, please message the Rich Bitch Instagram and I can integrate them into the next episode. So thank you so much for joining.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.